What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise post-game show. This post-game show will be solo for about 30 minutes. Then we should be able to get Eric on here. He's a little busy with something. But the Blazers end up getting a win today that was quite remarkable in the way that it happened. You had the Blazers playing a great first half, a great first three quarters, really, getting out to a 24-point lead at one point. They then blow that lead, end up being down 5, and then you got some Dame time, and they win by double digits. So this was a roller coaster there in the fourth quarter. The OKC Thunder go on a 21-4 run. You saw a perfect example of us kind of getting away from what was working, especially offensively, and allowing OKC to go on a huge run, and then us having to rely on Damian Lillard to save us. But overall, the Blazers get their 5th straight win. They move to 17-10. Happy with the final result. It would have been a major bummer to lose this game, especially after the way in which we started it. But the Blazers are able to pull this one out. You had big performances off the bench from Anthony Simons and Nasir Little in the first half. In the second half, neither of those guys really got any shots. I don't think Little shot a shot. I think Anthony had a couple of tough looks that didn't go. So lots to touch on from this game. Thank you for tuning in. I forgot to change the title. You are right. Shout out to chat for that one. Let me change that real quick. Oklahoma City Thunder. I got the tags and everything right. Forgot to change the title. So what's going on, guys? Hope you guys are having a good night, guys and girls. Yeah, this was a very interesting game. And this is gonna be a little weird doing this without Eric, because normally I do my intro and then I toss it over to Eric. So Eric, just Discord message me when you're ready to come on, and I will quickly bring you on, and we will do it that way. So yeah, there's a lot of good to talk about from this game. There's some bad. Do you guys want me to start with the good or the bad? Because I can start with the good or the bad. I'll let chat decide this one. Since we all got Eric on here, I will talk with chat. I will engage with you guys, answer some of your questions, and kind of do this a little bit differently than we normally do. You got a lot of people saying the bad. Uncooked Toast wants the good. I'll run this like a democracy tonight. All right, it looks like we have we have people saying bad. We got a lot of people saying start with the bad. So, to preface it quickly, we built a lead by getting good shots pretty much the entirety of the first three quarters, in my opinion. We got great shot selection. We got guys hot. We built a lot of confidence because we were getting good shots, because we were moving the ball. Everybody was touching the ball. The offense had a very good rhythm to it, right? I need to say that, because the bad in the fourth quarter, we got away from that. Shout out RIP Blazers, a $2 donation. Nas amazing, but not a vet yet, so bench him. Yeah, I'll talk about that too. Did you guys notice the contrast in the types of shots we were getting from the first three quarters to like the first half of that fourth quarter? Honestly, the entirety of the fourth quarter, right? Dame saved us on some insanely difficult shots. Did you guys notice the difference in shot quality from the first three quarters to the fourth quarter? It went from us getting extremely good shots to us getting extremely bad shots real quick. And we did get like an open Gary Trent Jr. 3. Like, we did get a good shot here and there, but once the offense starts struggling, guys shoot with a lot less confidence on open shots or contested shots, right? So the offense had no rhythm to it whatsoever. So even when we did occasionally get an open shot there in the fourth quarter, we didn't have a rhythm. Guys missed them. So it literally just comes down to stagnant offense and a lack of ball movement. There was so many possessions there in the fourth quarter where it was one pass and shot, or we were relying on Dame running some pick and roll and creating something out of nothing. Pretty much possession after possession after possession. And Dame could do that, and we saw that. That's why we won this game. Dame created a couple open shots for guys there down the stretch, and he hit some insanely tough step-back shots. You don't really want to have to rely on Damian Lillard to hit 30-foot contested fadeaway shots against Lou Dort, who is a great defender, in order to hold on to a game in which you led by 24 points against the Oklahoma City Thunder. You know what I mean? You don't want to have to rely on heroics to pull this one out, considering, we were up 24 points. And there was a 29-point swing because we were down 5 at one point there in the fourth quarter. They were defending the pick and roll extremely well. They got Lou Dort, who is maybe one of the top 5 perimeter defenders in the league. That dude is a phenomenal defender. He's built like a running back. That dude is a phenomenal defender, right? So you got to give him some credit, of course. But here's the problem. When you rely on Dame to create so much of your offense, to create out of isolation and create off a pick and roll, and he's matched up against one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, probably one of the top 5 guard defenders in the league, it makes it really tough on him. And then on top of that, their bigs were showing well on the pick and roll, and they were trapping Dame well, they were hedging on Dame well, they were defending the pick and roll good, not only because Lou Dort was on the ball, but because the guy guarding the screener did a good job of helping out. It completely stagnated our offense. So it became, okay, they're shutting things down at the point of attack, now we don't have anything. And now we have to settle for a bad shot, or it'd be one pass, and a bad shot. And that's how they were able to go on a 21-4 run. That type of stuff is frustrating. I get super frustrated when this team gets shut down on the point of attack and doesn't have anything else they can turn to or anything else they can go to. And that goes back to my point where we need better ball movement in order to not just be a one-dimensional offense where we have to rely on a guy like Dame to create everything out of isolation or pick and roll. Because as amazing as Dame is, there's going to be moments where it's not really there, right? Against a good team, we probably lose this game because of that. Over the first 3 quarters, we were moving the ball well. We weren't relying on Dame to create everything. We weren't relying on Dame to, split a trap out of a pick and roll, which, they were trapping it well and weren't letting him split it, or, create one-on-one against Lou Dort. We weren't relying on that. And we were getting good shots for other players. That's why you were able to have Gary Trent Jr. hit some shots. Anthony Simons hit some shots. And Anthony Simons hit some tough threes off the screen, but overall, he was able to get going. He had a couple open catch and shoot looks. You got Nasir Little some catch and shoot looks, and his shot looks phenomenal. He looks like a phenomenal shooter so far this year. We need to find him more minutes. We need to find him more shots. Right? You were able to get those guys good looks. And then the fourth quarter there, it's they ratchet up the pressure, and that's usually when it happens in the fourth quarter when the defense ratchets up the pressure. They trap more. That's when we tend to struggle. Right? Because things are getting shut down at the point of attack, and we don't really have an answer for it. So that's how they went on a 21-4 run. Part of it was we kept settling for long threes, so the rebounds were long, and they were collecting them on the run, attacking our basket. So they were able to get out in transition and get quick points. Right? I think they had 21 points over the first 6 minutes of that quarter. And part of it was poor defense, poor transition defense especially, but part of it was our offense, actually, that helped them score 21 points in the first half of that fourth quarter. Because when you're setting for long contested threes, sure, it might make it a little easier to get an offensive rebound, but if you don't, guys aren't catching the ball under the rim and having to go 94 feet, right? Guys are getting that rebound at the three-point line on the run. And OKC is a young athletic team. We were defending them well in the half court. I thought our half court defense was pretty solid all game long, and our half court defense has improved. But instead, we're not getting good shots. We're not hitting shots because of how stagnant our offense is. The rebounds are long. OKC's able to collect the ball on the run and attack us going the other way and get good shots in transition. And it was helped because we had some transition breakdowns, but that was basically the way the game turned from us absolutely dominating them to them being up 5 points. I want to know what you guys think about that, chat. Especially Eric. I want to know if that's how you saw it, too. Eric's working right now. He owns his own business, so he's been, had to spend a little bit more time on that lately. That's why I'm running things solo a little bit more, but I like the challenge. Is that what you guys saw there in the fourth quarter? Is that what your guys' opinions are, or do you have a different opinion? Did you see things a little bit differently, or is there something I missed? Because I legitimately think it's that simple. And that's what's frustrating about this team, right? I'm happy about the fact that we're won 7 out of 8 games and are on a 5-game win streak. But it makes it even more frustrating when we see what works and then they blatantly go away from it. And it almost blows a game like this. Because I think it's obvious at this point what works. Shout out Near012 for the $10 donation. He says, everyone but Gary is getting benched when CJ and Nurk is back, sadly. But maybe Stotts can actually start making adjustments, seeing how deep we will be when healthy. It's going to be tough, man. It's going to be tough. But I think at this point, like, until those guys are back, Nas needs more minutes. You need to see if he can sustain this. Because his shot looks phenomenal. You look at what Nas shot tonight. Sorry if ESPN ad plays. You guys always know that's a thing. But Nas was 5 for 5 tonight. 3 for 3 from 3. He's shooting the ball with a ton of confidence. His stroke looks perfect. On the season, he's shooting above 50% from 3. Small sample size, but let me pull up his stats here. Because I'm curious to see how many threes he's actually shot. I'll factor this game into it. After this game, he is shooting 11 for 17 from the three-point line. And you're talking about a guy who can defend and is athletic and can put the ball on the floor. That drive and dunk he had was phenomenal. And that's the type of offense we need, right? Instead of relying Dame to do everything at the point of attack against a phenomenal defender in Dort, and when they're trapping him and then us not having an answer, that play we get Nasir Little curling off a screen. He didn't even necessarily beat his defender, but he got enough of a step where he was able to just drive the ball. And we have enough of shooters around him that nobody wanted to help off a Gary Trent Jr. or an Anthony Simons or a Damian Lillard. I don't know exactly who was in the game, but we got enough shooters where they didn't really want to send help. And just curling Nas off a screen was able to get us a dunk. A phenomenal dunk, like not many guys are making that play, that's just Nasir's athleticism, but that's exactly my point. We're putting him in a position to succeed offensively and get us a phenomenal look offensively. And that's kind of what we went away from. So I think the contrast in this game offensively is very obvious, at least to me. I'm sure there's some people out there that won't see it that way and will just see that, well, when we miss shots in the fourth, it's far deeper than that. Far deeper. But yeah, it's going to be tough, man. I want to get Nas more run just to see if he can sustain this level of three-point shooting. Because 11 for 17, that's great. His shot looks great. Like, he looks like a phenomenal shooter. But it is a small sample size, you know what I mean? I want to see that. Obviously, he's not going to shoot over 50% from 3. If he is, he's going to be the best player ever. By the way, I did switch the title, Ben Hewitt, so maybe just refresh and it'll switch the title. But I did switch the title. But I want to see that. I want to see how well he can shoot over, say, 100 3-point attempts. 150 3-point attempts. Because I want to see how good of a shooter he is, right? 17 attempts has a very small sample size. I want to see it over an extended amount of shots. So, like, when guys come back, it's going to be hard for Stotts to divvy up the minutes, right? You're going to bench Hood? What if Hood comes back from this injury and starts playing like his old self? You know what I mean? Stotts is going to have some tough decisions. But that's why you want to see what you have in Nas, so you can make a more informed decision instead of just, playing him minimal minutes right now. And then when guys get healthy, oh, well, we don't know exactly what we have in Nasir Little. We have a good idea, but we don't know exactly what we have, so we're not going to, play him over a guy like a Rodney Hood, right? So I want him to get more minutes, 100%. Belgian says, yeah, I'm thinking tomorrow's going to be a big letdown game. Pelicans scoring at will tonight. I don't think so. I mean, you got some talent on that team, but they haven't been a good team. It's one good game doesn't mean much. Zion's been balling though, so it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a tougher game than this one. If we play like we did over the first 3 quarters today, over the entirety of the game tomorrow, we beat the Pelicans. If we have a lapse like we did for the first half, the first 6-7 minutes of that fourth quarter, if we have the same thing against the Pelicans, we lose that game, even if we play 3 great quarters like we did tonight. So it just comes down to consistency, right? This team, if they consistently go to what's working and do what's working, it should beat the Pelicans. I think we have a better roster than the Pelicans, right? Maybe you have more raw talent on the Pelicans, but their pieces don't fit together, right? And they have enough raw talent where they can have a game like they do tonight against the Grizzlies, but tomorrow there's your ESPN autoplay. But tomorrow might be something where they have no rhythm and their pieces aren't meshing, because that's basically been their issue this season. That's why they're 12-15. But I mean, this game was the epitome of us moving the ball well and playing decent defense and getting out to a 24-point lead, and then us going away from what's working, and them coming from 24 points down to lead by 5, 29-point swing, and then Dame saving us on insanely difficult shots and making plays like 1-on-5, right? You had the Blazers broadcasting break down the play where Dame drove and kicked it out for a huge Gary Trent Jr. wide open 3, and there was 5 defenders probably within 5 feet of Dame, right? And Dame was able to get that pass out to Gary Trent Jr. and make a great play there, great drive and kick. But there's possessions where there's so much traffic there, Dame doesn't even have an option. He doesn't have an option to shoot, and he's so smothered he's not able to get a pass out of it. And then what? So that's why I don't like relying on that too much all the time. Go ahead and ask me something, Ben. Go ahead. Blockboy says our transition defense is horrible. It was bad. You can't make a mistake like they did where they didn't pick up Roby there and let him go coast to coast. That kind of reminded me of some of the defensive mistakes they had in the Western Conference Finals against Golden State. That's a pretty inexcusable mistake. But our offense was allowing them to get good running opportunities too. It was more than just like we weren't playing good transition defense, but we also gave them opportunities to run based on the types of shots we were getting offensively. Ben, is that your question for me? What happened to that 20-point lead? I already answered that, bro. But it's honestly very simple to me. Just what kind of lost us that lead. I think the contrast is pretty obvious. Ignacio says Adams will be questionable tomorrow. Adams is actually a decent matchup for Kanter. If I were them, if Adams is out, I would go small and start Zion on the Zion at the 5 against Kanter. CJ Ellaby is not ready. CJ Ellaby is perfectly fine. CJ Ellaby got some burn 3 minutes. He took a bad 3-point shot. His 3-point shot isn't there. He's shooting the ball. He shot that shot with confidence. You know, I mean, you kind of like the confidence, but that's too much confidence for where his 3-point shot is at this point. But other than that, he didn't do anything bad. He gets trapped in the corner, tries to get the ball to Dame. They knock the ball out of bounds. Like, that's fine. That's actually a good thing. You're trapped in the half-court corner, and they tip the ball out of bounds. I'm fine with that. He's shown to me that he can handle minutes without really messing things up. He might not be like a positive, but if you're talking about your 14th man on the roster who was a second-round pick, 46th pick in the draft, and you can play him and he's not going to mess things up for you, that's a great thing considering. So I think he's ready for spot minutes in case we need him. You know, he's a good insurance guy. If he could shoot the ball at a high level, he will be a decent NBA player. So what you guys want me to touch on? As I said, I'm going to run this like a democracy until Eric is back. And I can also take questions if you guys have them in chat. Muhammad said, I noticed we are not feeding Kanter as much as we did before. I think we need to keep Kanter in the game and do more pick and roll. I don't think we need to do more pick and roll. The problem was we were trying to do too much pick and roll, and they were shutting it down, and we weren't able to get good shots off of it, and we weren't able to hit Kanter because they were shutting it down at the point of attack. Randall Pink Floyd says, Eric is pounding pints and throwing darts. Shh, you weren't supposed to say anything. You're supposed to keep that quiet. But yeah, I mean, Dame Played 37 minutes. After getting 4 fouls within the first, 17 minutes, for him to play another 20 minutes, only pick up 1, that was huge. Because I was worried about him fouling out. That was kind of a silly foul he had there with 4 minutes left on the break where he tried to steal the ball from behind and obviously fouled the ball handler. That was a silly foul. He has to be smarter there, Not only is he not likely going to get a steal there, but we need him. We desperately need him. Desperately. Eric, do you know what time you'll be back? Because here's the problem. Normally when Eric talks, I mute my mic, I make the graphics, and then I'm ready for when we get into the players. But obviously, I'm running this solo right now. Other than Dame just going bonkers, Dame has 31 and 10 with 7 rebounds. Almost had a triple-double. Also had a couple steals. You had Gary Trent Jr. go 8 for 16, 3 for 8 from 3. He was able to get some shots inside the arc to go. If he can be an efficient player and a better slasher, he will be a much more complete scorer and a much harder guy to guard. Because now I feel like teams, the scouting report on him is you try and run him off the line, and you live with the results when he slashes. Because he shoots a better percentage from 3 than 2. So if he can have nights like tonight, he goes 5 for 8 inside the arc. That's 63%. That's what you need from him. You need him to be able to make teams pay for running him off the 3-point line. You also had Derrick Jones Jr. had a decent game. He was 4 for 9, had 13. Rocco had 6 points, was 2 for 5 from 3. That's 40%. He was 2 for 7 from the field. But you look at Rocco's stat line: 6 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 6 blocks. Rocco had 6 blocks tonight. I thought it was a phenomenal game from Rocco. I thought his defense was phenomenal. Shot 40% from 3. Rebounded the ball well. Had a couple big rebounds in traffic. Came up huge defensively time and time again. Had some really good playmaking chances that he made plays for others. He had a complete game tonight. Then Simon's off the bench. Just okay. Let me touch on this. This is what I want to touch on in regards to Simons, and this is kind of a team thing. We will probably get into individual players when Eric is here, and I'll get his thoughts. But Anthony Simons on fire the first half. 5 for 6 from the 3-point line. And hitting tough threes, too. Why couldn't we get him one single solid look in the second half? Right, and this goes back to, the people saying, Stas is an offensive genius. Why couldn't we get him, if Stas is such an offensive genius, why couldn't we get Anthony Simons a decent catch-and-shoot look there in the second half? That was frustrating. The dude was on fire in the first half, and we couldn't get him a single shot. We can't run some action that maybe gets him a shot, and then if they overplay it, because he's been on fire from 3, maybe he has a driving lane. I don't understand that. And it's kind of the same thing for Little. Little 3 for 3 from 3 in the first half. We don't get him a catch and shoot look when he's in the game. Because it's just a lot of isolation and trying to do things and getting shut down the point of attack and not having an answer. Instead of running motion, moving guys, moving the ball like we were in the first half. So that's extremely frustrating because, this result, I'm happy winning 7 out of 8. I'm happy with winning 5 in a row. That's phenomenal, especially with the injuries. But some of the things this team does there's no excuse for. In this probably should have been a 20-point win. And some people might say I'm overrating the guys we have on this team, but I don't know. I mean, those people that are telling me that I'm overrating the guys on this team were the same people telling me that this team was hopeless because of injuries and screwed because of injuries and there's nothing Stotts could do. And now we win 7 out of 8 games. So they were obviously wrong on that. And I think they're wrong on me overrating the players on this team. I think this is a good roster with these injuries. I think this is a really deep roster. I tweeted out during the game, shout out to Olshey for building this team. He built a phenomenal roster, in my opinion, given the tools that he had. Sure, the Lakers win last year's championship. Why is that? Well, because they're the Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron wants to come sign with them and then AD wants to go play with LeBron. That doesn't take work. If I was the GM of the Los Angeles Lakers, I could have done that. Anybody could have done that. My grandmother could have done that. But, we're the Portland Trailblazers. We don't have that We don't have that privilege. So given the tools Olshey had, he built a great roster, and this is a really good roster. And if this roster plays the right way, this can be a really good team without CJ and Nurk. And we saw that, and then we get away from it. I don't know. That's what's triggering for me. Shout out PS3 Nintendo for $2 dono. He says, watching you at work with some hand emojis. Appreciate the dono, bro. I'm watching you in chat. Yeah, and I mean, it's not Olshey's fault this team gets injured, and people were crying at him to go sign a backup point guard because Anthony just ain't it. And now Anthony's balling, and, you know, it's, there's no talk about, oh, we need a backup point guard right now anymore. And I was telling y'all, this team can move the ball without Dame on the floor, without a backup point guard. With Anthony as the backup point guard, you don't need like a prototypical pure throwback pass first point guard in order to get good ball movement in the half court. You don't. You were able to see that unit shoot. The bench might have played a little bit better than the starters during the first half. I don't know the plus minus stats on that. During the second half, the bench didn't do quite so well. It kind of got away from what they did in the first half. But we saw what they could do in the first half, which is move the ball. With a lineup of like Simons and I think Trent was staggered and playing with the bench unit. And, you know, you don't have a prototypical point guard there, but they're still moving the ball really, really well. And then in the second half, they didn't. The problem is, you know, earlier in the season, they constantly played like how they did in the second half. And people said, well, you know, Olshey needs to go sign a backup point guard or else that's how they're always going to play. No. And I was telling people that, no, you don't need to go sign just signing Shabazz Napier is not going to help the team's style of play, man. That was such a ridiculous, talking point. And now I think people realize, oh, they can still move the ball. Shoot, when we didn't have Dame and we started Rodney Hood and Gary Trent Jr. in our backcourt, that's two wings. We didn't even have a guard, not even a combo guard in that starting lineup, but we still moved the ball. So this team, there's no lineup this team can throw out there that's incapable of moving the ball. It's not a personnel thing. It's a style play thing. It's a coaching thing. And people are giving Olshey all this flack for not signing a 15th guy, a Shabazz Napier, which is just ridiculous to me. He's saving that open roster spot for the buyout market, in my opinion. For maybe an Otto Porter Jr. For something a lot better than a Shabazz Napier. And we don't need a Shabazz Napier. I think it's obvious at this point. Frank Jackson says Clayton. Yeah, man, we need Frank Jackson. My goodness. Let's touch in around the NBA. We'll do things a little out of order, if you guys want. I can just read off some of the scores. There's some games going on right now. I won't take long. But we're basically just waiting for Eric to get here before we can go player by player. The Pelicans we play tomorrow, they beat the Grizzlies 144-113. Zion had 31. Phenomenal game for the Pelicans. Hopefully they don't do that against us tomorrow. The Grizzlies are a hard team to figure out at 11-12. Celtics beat the Nuggets. That's a good thing for us. An Eastern Conference team beating a Western Conference playoff team. Jokic had 43, 6, and 5. He needs more help there. People were talking about him like they talk about Dame needing more help in the past. Jaylen Brown had 27 for the Celtics. The Suns are beating the Nets 28-18. I just want to catch the damn Suns. They keep winning every single game, man. We are a game behind the Suns. Well, right now we're half a game because we won. But the Suns have won 6 straight. So we've been a game behind them for the past 5 games. And they won't lose. We won't lose. We tried to lose tonight, and then Dame said, nah. Dame just, when Dame time, clutch as hell. Should be an MVP candidate, by the way. That should be a top 5 MVP candidate at this point. If somebody doesn't have Dame in their top 5 in terms of MVP voting, or the MVP race. If they don't have him top 5 right now for that, they're sleeping 100%. And Stephen A. Smith, admitted that the national media is sleeping, including him. So, but yeah, man, the Suns need to lose. I'm hoping they drop this game against the Nets, but they've had a good start so far. Devin Booker has 16 points with 2.5 left in the first. The Nets defense is very mediocre, and they're playing without KD, but you got James Harden, you got Kyrie, you got the team to take care of the Suns. The Lakers kind of struggled with the Timberwolves, but beat them 112-104. They're without AD, so I was hoping the Timberwolves would pick up this game. I mean, we play the Lakers without AD soon. That's going to be an interesting game. We already beat them with AD. We might be able to catch the Lakers before the All-Star break. The Raptors beat the Bucks 124-113. That's all the action right now. The Spurs and Pistons game got postponed. The Spurs, I think, next 3 games are postponed. The Charlotte's next 2. Charlotte Hornets' next 2 games are postponed. So that's the NBA picture right now. Oh, is Kyrie not playing? Lower back tightness? It's a shame, man. James Harden is going to have to go back to his Houston days. He's been playing a lot different style of basketball. Yeah, you're right. Kyrie is not in this game. So James Harden, it's like a throwback to his Houston days. He's been playing a different style of basketball, better style of basketball, in my opinion. It was going to be interesting to see how he played, like the style of basketball he played when he's playing next to KD and Kyrie, and I think he switched it up for the better. He's not scoring as much. He's only averaging 24 points per game, but he's leading the league in assists. He's averaging 11 a game, so. But he's going to have to do a lot of scoring tonight if they're going to take care of the Suns. Shout out to Near012 for $5 dono. He says, Blake Griffin will be on the buyout market soon. If he's cheap, hell yeah. I am not on board the Blake Griffin train anymore. When I started this channel a couple years ago, I was on board. But I think he's proven to be pretty washed. I mean, he could come in here and have kind of revive his career, kind of like Nick Batum did with going to the Clippers. Playing on a better team might make it easier on Blake. But the dude's been horrible the past couple years and injury prone. My top buyout market target is Otto Porter Jr. Always been a fan of Otto Porter Jr. Tori, do you think Rocco will make a defensive team this year? No. He doesn't have the stats to justify, defensive team. Media members vote for that. They look at stats, statistical stuff. But then Rocco does a lot of little things well that kind of go unnoticed. So AD would make it over him. I mean, I don't know if they do 3 front court players or 2 forwards and a center, but. He should get some votes though, I think. If he was a phenomenal on-ball defender, he probably would. Cause yeah, he's an okay. I would say he's a bit above average, but only above average defending on the ball. But then his off-ball defense is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Like Blockboy says. Who's your top 5 for MVP? I put Jokic, Dame. Here's the thing with LeBron, and I said this on Blazers Uprise Live. Here's the thing with LeBron. What he does without AD is going to make or break his case. If they win a lot of games, if they beat good teams, he will have a legitimate case, right? But they were struggling with the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves were in this game up until the very end without D'Angelo Russell. So if that team struggles without AD and kind of falls back to the pack of teams like the Suns, the Blazers, whatnot, I don't know how you put LeBron over Dame. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you justify that. Because Dame's missing his second best player. And probably his third best player. And he's still winning games. So, I don't know. I would... LeBron is wait and see mode. I don't even know where I'd rank LeBron. LeBron is to be determined for me based on what he does without AD. What's your thoughts about Curry? I think Dame's just been just as good as Curry. I think Dame should be above Curry in terms of the MVP race. His teams have been better. And statistically, they're pretty much the same. I mean, the Blazers are at 17-10. The Warriors they're not far behind. They're 15-13. But I mean, the Trailblazers have been missing their second and third best player. Overall, it's nice. It's bro, you look at this record, man, 17-10, and it's nice to be somewhat happy with our record. You know what I mean? It's nice to be satisfied with our record. This is the first time in a year and a half, right? I wasn't satisfied with our record at any point last season for obvious reasons. And then this season, I wasn't until lately, until this 5-game win streak. We're 17-10. This is the first time I felt satisfied with our record since 2 seasons ago. I think it's weird, man. I'm looking at this, and I would like to be higher than 5th. But you look at the East, where we would only be a half game behind the 76ers. We have the tiebreaker versus them. So it'd almost be a scenario where if we made the finals, we'd automatically have home court advantage in the finals. Even if we played the top team in the East, we're only a half game behind them. Yeah, this is the first time in 2 seasons that I've been satisfied with our record. Do you guys have that same feeling? But it's something like if we lose to the Pelicans tomorrow, it's going to be like, dang, we could have been 18-10. I don't have my desktop audio on. I apologize for the ESPN app, but I never turned it on. There was no reason to without Eric's. So, Eric, you can go ahead and call me if you want, and we can... I can get your thoughts on the way the team played while I make the player graphics, and then we can hop into the players and get back to a little bit of normalcy. All right. Let me just situate with Eric here. Just give me a second. What's up, man? I got your audio on. I just gotta get your camera on here. Jeez, what was it? I'm forgetting my... Because this... Okay, I need to hide that. I need to... move you there. And then I need to... I need to set up like something where I could switch from this easier. But normally I'm not counting on this is my first time doing a solo post-game stream in so long. It's weird. All right, let me do this. There we go. Cool. All right, we're good. So welcome in, Eric.
What's up?
I've been you've been in here, so you've heard some of the things
listening.
I said, and you can first off, all right, so you said you agreed in chat, but I want to hear, your thoughts on basically the way our offense went there at the start of the fourth quarter and kind of how it helped them get runouts, how it kind of helped them make a run. What were your thoughts on that and like what I said? I'll just let you expand on it.
Yeah, you pretty much touched on it. We go into an ISO-centric offense where we just take turns. We had several possessions where Trent was trying to go one-on-one, Melo, Dame, and they weren't really having success or getting good shots. They weren't passing the ball much, and just a lot of people just standing around off ball, not doing anything. And those are the perfect times we saw earlier in the game when like a Derrick Jones Jr. cuts off a Dame drive and he gets a wide open dunk. It's stuff like that. Like you got to do those little things when the defense ramps up the pressure, because those cuts are there the entire game, whether they're pressuring or not. But when they are so focused on Dame, those type of off-ball movements are there the entire game. So like just do that and get an easy bucket. And if you get enough of those easy buckets, they're going to have to switch their defense back to the old way. But instead, we just let them kind of double team Dame most of the fourth quarter and just take him out of the game. Or when Dame wasn't in, we just had an offense where we were just, like I said, taking turns no matter who got the ball between Simons and Trent and Melo and those guys. And then on the other end, we just completely lose all our discipline at times. It had gotten a lot better to where we weren't having those huge stretches of lack of discipline. But in this game, we just you mentioned the Roby play where he just dribbles the ball up the court and no one even picks him up and he just walks in for a dunk. There was another play where they, I think it might have been Diallo or I can't remember who it was, but someone else did it and got a lay-in off of it. And then Justin Jackson later walks up the court, just dribbles, no one picks him up, he just shoots a three and makes it.
Yeah.
Like those are the kind of mistakes you can not have in the NBA, and it's just complete lack of focus. And these aren't personnel based. Like everyone knows you pick up ball in basketball. That's like one of the first things you learn on defense.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for me because it's like we harp so much on just not having those silly mental mistakes, and we need to clean those up. But I feel like we have been cleaning those up, and it's like it's getting to the point where it's like, okay, even if you like, how good? How do I phrase this? How good do you think we could possibly be in terms of consistency with not having those mistakes? Because like it would be nice to be perfect, but I feel like that's not quite realistic. Like you're always going to have mental lapses here and there, and with how they've improved, it was almost like, well, this was bound to happen. Hopefully this isn't a consistent thing. I don't know. That's why I didn't really harp on it too much. I just don't know like how good we could expect them to be, because before it's like, dang, we're awful in this regard, we should be much better, but like lately we have been much better, so now it's kind of like, where is the ceiling in that regard?
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I mean, do you remember a time where Dame just dribbled up the court and no one picked him up and he just walked right in and scored? Like,
true.
Like, yeah, he blows by some people, but like you can't be that.
Yeah,
you can't pick those kind of mistakes.
I will say,
like,
yeah.
Two people not guarding Luka at the end of a game and giving him a wide open three. Like these kind of things are.
Yeah.
I mean, they happen. They happen to every team. No team is perfect. Like
an example of that is like Anthony Simons being hot and just walking straight into a three in the first half on the left wing.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
But you still have to focus on them and try and improve them and call them out when they do happen. Just so it doesn't become a. That's the thing when you start to lose focus. You gotta address it, and you gotta prioritize it within the game. Call a timeout, address it, or even on the court. After that, after Roby drove for that dunk, you had Rocco kind of getting on Melo a little bit. For Melo not picking up ball, that type of thing. I like to see that. I want to see players frustrated when they have such a defensive breakdown like that. So it's something that in the course of the game, you gotta address and you gotta fix it. You can't let that become you can't have a full quarter of making those types of mistakes. The problem is earlier this season we'd have full halves of making those mistakes, and it was real bad. So,
but it's like it just gets compounded because then you're not getting good shots on one end, and then you're making these mistakes on the other end, and it's just like, and then it builds, and then it's like the next play you do a mistake, and then the next play you have a mistake, and it's happening on both ends, and then all of a sudden a 25-point lead is down to like 7 or 8, and then you're in like sucker mode where you're pinched up and tight and worried about blowing the lead completely, which we did. But that it's just like, we talked about this in some of the games where even if we have some of those periods on offense where we struggle to get good shots, you can win games by stopping them on the other end still. So I felt like in the third quarter, they got, I want to say at least 10 wide open threes, but they bricked like every single one of them. So I don't think we were necessarily playing great defense in the second half. I thought we played a lot better defense in the first half of this game. But I don't think we were doing anything like super special to stop them. They just they were clanging threes left and right in that third quarter.
Yeah, I mean, it becomes a situation where if you're a good team, right, and this is what good teams do, when they have those mistakes, they figure out ways to win games. And that's what we're doing differently than last year. We'd lose this game last year, 1,000%. Even with Dame going insane. You know what I mean? Like because Dame had a ton of insane performances where he started playing like how he did down the stretch and hitting some of the shots where he did down the stretch, but we didn't have enough elsewhere. We weren't getting defensive stops, and during the last like 4 minutes of that game, we started playing better defense, and Rocco had some big defensive plays, and we didn't have a guy like Rocco last year to make those big defensive plays. So that's kind of the difference. Is we have a 10-3 record in clutch time. I don't know if this counts as a clutch time win. I don't know exactly what does, but we've been near the top of the league in terms of winning close games, basically. And that's what good teams do. They figure out ways to win games. Even if they end up struggling, even if they end up completely falling apart, they figure out ways to bounce back. And that's what great players do too, and we maybe have the best player at that with Dame, you know what I mean? Who can just save a game like he did. I think he completely saved this game.
Dame, yeah.
My goodness, man. That last step back he had was different than most of his step backs. I don't know what was different about, but the way he shot it from that deep, where he was like so flat-footed on it, it was insane, man, that he even got the ball to the rim, let alone make it.
I felt like at first he was going to pull up from the logo, and then he dribbled in, and I was like, okay, he's going to drive, and then he has both feet were like flat-footed, and he had to like put super arc on it. Yeah, it was just insane.
Yeah, he didn't have the best 3-point shooting night, but 5 for 14. That's like 35%. I mean, that's not too bad, and he's been struggling with his 3-point shot a little bit, but like he can be struggling all game long, and then once it becomes Dame time, he just has insane shots, and it's just like you're not surprised. He could be 0 from 30, 0 for 30 from 3 during a game, and I wouldn't be shocked if he starts hitting from like 35 feet. Yeah. That's just who he is.
Well, he was 1 for 10 until that last few minutes.
Made his last 4, went 4 for 4. Exactly my point on that. He shot 12 for 25 from the field, was 7 for 11. So he was able to attack the rim and get some shots to fall. I need to start making these graphics. So what else do you want to touch on?
Well, with Dame, it's not necessarily with Dame, but there were several plays in the first half where, like the other 4 players were just standing at the 3-point line, and he had Dort on him, and he didn't get a pick or anything. He just ISO'd and tried to take him one-on-one, and all those possessions ended very badly for us. Once again, it'd be nice if just someone would cut off of those, or there was some action off ball. But then we started playing with some pace in the first half too. Got out on some fast breaks. Dame got going with a lay in there on Dort, and then Nas had a breakaway dunk off some good passing, pushing the ball, outlet passes, and I like when we do that. And then also when Ellaby came in, he only played a few minutes, but there was a play where Dame had the ball, and Ellaby comes back into the backcourt, gets the ball from him. I'm thinking, whoa, what is this? Like, so CJ's gonna like run the point with Dame on the court, and so Dame runs off a pick from Cantor, gets double teamed, but it's in a position where he can easily make a pass to the open player. It's different than when he brings the ball up and gets double teamed, because then the angles aren't right to pass to an open player, and he has to pass it back. Like you always talk about, that's the worst pass you can make out of a double team, is throwing it backwards towards half court, because then it allows the defense to get back to their man.
Yeah. Also, if it's tipped, or if somebody can close the distance to the recipient of the pass, it's probably an easy bucket the other way too.
Right. And if you have 2 people on Dame, and you have 3 other defenders, and they guard the other player near half court, and they have their 2 guys up a little more, it's hard for Dame to throw over the top to the open guy. So, but when he was at the side, all he has to do is kick it up to the top for Rocco. He's wide open 3-pointer. And if someone gets out on Rocco fast enough, he just swings it to Ellaby or whoever was in the corner, and they have a wide open 3. And it was just such a nice little wrinkle. But then, like, we don't really see it again. Dame, at one time in the second half, he had a play where Trent had just hit a bunch of shots, so he gave it to Trent, and Trent kind of did a pick and roll with Cantor and then passed to Dame, and no one was guarding Dame, and he hits a wide open 3. That was the 1 3 he hit out of the 10 that wasn't in clutch time. I just want them to exploit that off the ball stuff a little more, especially in the fourth quarter. Not necessarily clutch time, like we see what Dame can do, even if he has a lot of defensive pressure. But we didn't really talk about this from last game, but Dame made some comments about a specific play, and it's kind of got me worried about this team. But I'll save that for another time, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I am kind of curious, and I'm sure chat's curious what you're talking about, so they might want you to bring it up. But let me touch on what you were saying before. There's ways, Dame gets so much attention. There's ways we can use that to free up other guys. We can do a much better job of using the attention given to Dame, and that's why it's good to use him off the ball. running him off screens because, we can, oftentimes he'll get doubled. And instead of him having the ball in the double team without an ability to pass it out, he won't even have the ball to get doubled off screens. And it's much easier to utilize that against the defense and get other guys open opportunities.
Yep. So, yeah, chat wants me to elaborate, of course.
Yeah, you can't tease him like that.
So Dame said on that play where Melo got the ball and got, kind of bumped Luka and then passed to Derek Jones for the land. So Dame said that Tibbetts was screaming to go get the ball, even though he had two guys on him double teaming him. And Dame said he heard Dallas's bench screaming, "Double Dame, don't let him get the ball back." So he kind of looked at Melo, and Melo smiled and then passed took it upon himself to go. Like, why are we trying to give the ball back to Dame when they have him double teamed and are wanting to double team? And that's not, we weren't even running a play. It was just, give the ball to Dame and let him do anything. And that just reinforces everything we've said about how they don't have any kind of structure on offense. It's just, here, Dame, do something. And then, but like, trust in your players. And Dame talked about this during that same interview where he talks about part of his evolution this year is he doesn't have to score 60 points. Like, he can trust Melo if he's hot. He can trust, teammates to hit shots or whatever. But that's got to be in like during the whole game, like if they're taking Dame out of the play shouldn't be for Dame to get the ball, like for him to pass to Melo and then pass it right back to Dame with two guys on him. It should be a play to attack the defense that in a 4-on-3 situation. And if Dame trusts his players like Melo and Rocco and those type of guys, like, there's no reason why he shouldn't trust those guys to be able to handle that. We have 4 really smart players and good scorers, especially when you have Cantor down low. Like, there's so many things you can do to take advantage of those situations. I just thought it was weird that because Dame basically said, like, oh yeah, there's times, we just, because coaches let me just dribble the ball up and do whatever. So, like, sometimes I want to get Melo involved and sometimes I want to get Trent involved. And it's like, well, why aren't the coaches trying to emphasize that? Like, I don't understand. Like, I mean, I understand letting Dame, like, have control of the offense because he's that good, but it's like, I don't know. It just kind of reinforced everything we've been talking about how we just rely on Dame way too much to create our entire offense and to basically decide what to do on offense all the time. And I just think we could make it so much easier on him if we let other guys help him, first of all, instead of just putting him right back into the tougher situations and to play him off ball more.
Yeah, I agree with all that. It's
shout out to Allison for sending me that interview, by the way.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting, but that's like, I don't know. I mean, none of those comments are surprising, and I agree with I don't know. Like, I just agree with you 100%.
Because the Dallas game was a perfect example, and tonight was a pretty good example too. So the play where he makes that insane shot, they weren't double teaming; it was 1-on-1. So, like, I trust Dame to do, like, in those situations, do whatever. Mm-hmm. But the other plays, like the one where we passed to Melo in the Dallas game, like, you knew Dallas was going to double team him on that possession. Like, everyone knew that. So, like, why don't we have a plan for if they go two guys? So we've seen time and time again when we throw a weak double team at someone, how easy it is for another team to score or get an open shot because like, it's not that hard when you're playing 4-on-3. Someone is open if you make the right decision. So, and then on that particular play, Melo finds Derek Jones with a great pass and he gets a lay. And then we pretty much win the game because of that and a tough 3 by Damian Lillard. But, it's just,
we have too much offensive talent to play like that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To like not utilize the attention for a Dame to get other players good opportunities, because we have the talent with our other players to really do a good job exploiting those opportunities if we create those opportunities, but we don't do a good enough job of creating them.
Yeah, see, and this goes all the way back to what you were saying. I mean, you've been saying this for a long time. You have to have some sort of set or structure you can go to when teams take a certain player out of the league. And then we see in the playoffs against the Lakers, Stotts is like, well, Nurkic isn't adjusting to the pick and roll, like, because they're just playing it and taking him out of the game or whatever. It's like, no, well, stop running pick and roll then. Or, oh, they're double teaming Dame off Ed Davis pick and rolls. Oh, let's just keep doing it against the Pelicans and just run them right into the double team every single freaking play. And like, it's like, no, like, stop doing this. Like, come up with something. You're an offensive genius. Like, come up with some schemes to exploit those things. Don't just be like, oh, there's nothing I can do. They were double teaming us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I don't know. Honestly, at this point, like, the defense has improved. We're focusing a little bit more on the offense than usual because the defense has improved. So now it's like, okay, how do we stop, stretches where we score 4 points in 7 minutes or whatever it was in the fourth quarter? And I touched on this before you're on air. I just think it's ridiculous that with the way Nas and Anthony were shooting in the first half, they were combined 8 for 9 from 3. We could not get a single decent 3-point look for either of them in the second half.
Nope. Nas got one late, or not late, but late in the third quarter.
Oh wait, is that the one he knocked? Because he didn't miss a three.
He hit one in the corner. He hit one in the corner in the third quarter.
Okay, so they were 7 for 8 in the first half, and then they get one decent look in the second. That's how come you can't, with how much attention Dame gets, and Carmelo still gets some attention, and Gary Trent Jr. is getting more attention. You can't get those guys more than one decent look in the second half. That's crazy to me.
Why? And why does Nas get taken out when he did?
I don't know. Why is
like I get Simons got 3 fouls, but like there were players sitting at the table ready to come in for Simons before he picked up his 3rd foul anyway. So like I don't get that. Like those guys are playing hot. Like this is why you have a good bench sometimes. Is like there could have been a situation where maybe they pushed the lead and we were up like 20, 25 points at halftime, and Dame played like 8 minutes or something. Like. It'd be awesome to have some games like that. Like if OKC goes on like a 6-0 run and cut it to like 12 or something, then yeah, go ahead, bring Dame back in for the last 4 or 5 minutes or whatever. But like I felt like we didn't need to do that in that situation.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the minutes breakdown. Nas only plays 17 minutes. Carmelo plays 27. Nas was much better than Carmelo today. Mm-hmm. I thought. I mean, you just look at this, right? In terms of shot breakdown. Dame has 25 shots, justified. It's Damian Lillard, right? Second, in terms of shots, Gary Trent Jr. shot 16 shots in 38 minutes. Justified. He's an efficient player. He's been our second leading scorer with CJ out, right? Third, in 27 minutes, you have Carmelo shooting 14 shots. So over he's shooting a shot every 2 minutes. He's 4 for 14, right? And then you look at Nas, only 5 shots, but he made all 5 of them. He literally made more shots than Melo. He only shot 5. Melo shot 14. And then Simons was hot, got 9 shots in 18 minutes. I mean, he only played 18 minutes because of foul trouble. So, but it's just like, why can't we distribute, why can't we create shot opportunities for a guy who's perfect from the field? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's because we go into one-on-one basketball, and that's not Nasir Little's game, right? He's not necessarily a one-on-one player. I think he might have potential as a one-on-one player, but, I mean, and then you got Carmelo Anthony, though. That's the contrast. And Carmelo Anthony is a guy you just give the ball to and watch as he goes one-on-one. And I thought Carmelo forced some tough shots. We can touch on it when we get to his segment. But you just look at that, and it's kind of frustrating to me.
Yeah, super frustrating. I don't like. I understand he's going to make some mistakes, and I mean, he had a drive, he lost the ball or whatever. But like, I mean, who doesn't have an occasional turnover? And then he made a few mistakes on defense, but they're mistakes once again that everyone on the team makes.
What mistakes specifically?
there was a couple of those plays where we talked about where someone didn't pick up the right guy or whatever, and
Yeah.
I don't know if it was 100% Nas's, but overall
He just needs more minutes for those types of for game awareness situations. The dude has barely played.
And my whole point is, I think we're up like 18 or something, 19 when he got taken out. It's like, those are the type of situations, like, let him play through mistakes. Like, that's the perfect scenario to play through mistakes. There's no way you should be yanking your young guys when they're building a lead, even with the mistakes. Like, let them get those minutes there and work through them. And because honestly, if we have a guy like Nas, like, have a breakout kind of like Trent did last year, like, think of how much better this team's ceiling could be with just another wing that's both a good defender, he can shoot threes, and we haven't seen it much this year, but he's great at cutting to the ball. I feel like that's been coached out of him, but like he was a great cutter in last year. But yeah, so I just wish we'd let those guys just play and see what happens. And I just feel like with Nas, he just doesn't get an opportunity that I feel like has earned with how he's played on the court and how he's worked on his game.
I mean, you look at his rate of development from what it seems like, he's on pace to be a starting forward next year.
Right.
You know, like, I don't know, but it's like a small sample size, so I want to see more of it, and that's what I was saying. I want to see truly what we have here in year 2, right? He's only in his second year. How is he 21 yet? Let me look. He turned 21 a few days ago, actually.
Yeah.
He's barely 21 years old, bro. He has defensive ability. He has athletic ability. You know, like he makes some mental mistakes, but he's still very inexperienced, right? With experience, I'm pretty sure he'll fix those. He's a smart guy. The thing, the knock on it was like, oh well, he's a questionable 3-point shooter, bro. Dude looks like a sniper. Mm-hmm. Dude looks phenomenal. His stroke
looked really clunky just a year ago.
Yeah, like the progress he's made in his 3-point shot is astounding to me. Astounding. Like, you know, Gary Trent Jr. like struggled his rookie year, but didn't play much. And like Anthony Simons like shot 33% last year, but we all knew like, okay, Anthony Simons is gonna get better. You know, he just needs more confidence and maybe to make one little tweak. You look at Nasir Little going from the start of last year to the start of this year. It's insane.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too. It's not like, I mean, people are pointing out his efficiency. Like, this guy is shooting crazy shooting splits right now, and like you mentioned earlier, it's kind of a small sample size, but like, it's not like he's going out there shooting 1 for 10 and it's like, oh, you can't play him because his shot looks great, but it's just not going in. We saw that with Trent in his rookie year and a little bit at the beginning of last year, where he looked like an NBA player, but it just wasn't like the stats weren't backing that up. Whereas Nas, you look at his numbers and you're like, how is this guy not getting more shots? How is he not getting more playing time? Like, what is going on? And it's not like our defense is like superb anyway. So like I said, I just wish they'd let him play through some mistakes then.
Yeah, I mean, like, Melo makes the same defensive mistakes as Nas did this game, and he can be shooting, you know, 2 for 10. He doesn't get pulled ever for making those mistakes. You know what I mean? So it's like a young player who just needs experience to kind of fix those mistakes. Cutting his experience short because he makes those mistakes when he needs experience to fix them is counterintuitive to me. Mm-hmm. It's counterintuitive. You call time out, you point out, okay, this is where you made a mistake, you send him back out there. Because the thing is, he's still helping the team because he's 5 for 5 from the field and 3 for 3 from 3. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't think he was that bad defensively today. You know, I've Melo stands will like point out any little defensive mistake he does and not hold Melo to the same standard. But, you know, it's like if you let Carmelo, if he's not having a good shooting game, you still let him make defensive mistakes, you know, not pick up ball on Isaiah Roby and just kind of turn his back to him and let him drive for a dunk. And, you know, Melo still plays, right? You gotta let Nas. You gotta give Nas a little bit of leeway, in my opinion, since he just needs experience to kind of clean some of these things up.
Yeah, this is the perfect time. I mean, if he's not going to play more than 17 minutes now, he's not really. I mean, this is the kind of guy who once CJ and Nurk and the guys come back, he's not going to get any minutes, and it's going to be a shame to have that guy on the bench, much like last year when we really struggled and didn't have very good wings. Would have been nice to let him prove that he's incapable last year instead of just benching him and then everyone saying, oh, he's not good enough or whatever. And it's almost like, I mean, I don't think this is actually like a conscious thing, but like subconsciously, I almost feel at times like, oh, we can't do that because as long as Stotts plays like Melo and you know, the guys that people think are good or have a big name, like he always has the injury and personnel excuse. Whereas if he gives Nas like 30 minutes a game and he all of a sudden is playing like he did against Milwaukee in this game, and he's like one of the best players on the team, then he gets kind of exposed as like, well, you do have these personnel. You do have this personnel. And I think we're seeing, like you touched upon, you've had great points all show. Good job.
Appreciate it.
Like we have, like, think about that. We have Nurkic, CJ, Hood, Giles was out this game, and we still were like way more talented than the Thunder. I know they had some players out too, but like we still like have a ton of good players, and we're talking about like being so good that like some of these guys aren't even getting enough minutes and stuff. So yeah, it's just a great testament to finally having a deep team with both young players and veterans and, you know, superstar, putting it all together. I have a lot of hope for this team. Hopefully, besides like coaching is the only thing that gets me to not like fully buy into the hype that this team could actually contend this year.
Yeah. I mean, Olshay's done his job with this roster, man. It's just, here's the thing. It's like, if Nas keeps playing this well and shows that he's just as good as a Derrick Jones Jr. and a Rodney Hood, and you have a minutes crunch, man, it makes things a little bit more interesting at the trade deadline. Because those two guys, Derrick Jones Jr., Rodney Hood, add up to $20 million in salary. And if Nasir Little has shown he can be just as good and he's younger and, you know, he has more team control over the next, you know, he has 2 additional years left on his contract, then he's a restricted free agent, so he's still under team control, then might open up some possibilities to improve the team at the trade deadline that we weren't expecting. You know, because we weren't necessarily expecting this from Nas. I don't know. That's why I just want to see what we have. Just play him, man. Just play him, especially when he's doing this well offensively. You know, teach him through his you know, young, inexperienced defensive mistakes and let him improve that on the fly. Because right now what he's doing offensively is more than making up for a couple of defensive mistakes. And still, as a one-on-one defender, he's still solid. And he still has some good moments defensively.
Yeah, so that's the problem. If you don't give him a chance to prove that now, like I said, once people start coming back, then it's going to be harder for them to prove that he's ready for that situation, and then just trade a Derrick Jones Jr. blindly, not knowing 100% whether you'll get that from Nas. But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy to think that all these guys, I mean, I wouldn't say like they're guaranteed to be good, because like we've seen Simons and players like that struggle a little bit, but like all these guys, not only are they like talented, but their ceiling is so high, and they probably won't all reach it, but like I don't think it's like that crazy to think like in a few years like we could have just as good of a team with like all these guys once, you know, Dame starts to move on and stuff like that. If we keep a lot of these guys around as they enter their prime, I think Portland's still in really good shape.
I mean, you got 3 young players with star potential, in my opinion. Like potential, obviously, like there's a lot of players that never reach their full potential, you know, but in terms of like their ceiling, you got 3 young guys on this team with star caliber ceiling. And that's Anthony, you know, and I kind of was like hesitant on him before the season. I'm back on board that train. You never left it. Gary Trent Jr. I mean,
Thank you for recognizing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've seen the improvements that I needed to see from him to get me back on board the train. The improvement. He's made the improvements in his shooting form that I said he needed to make. Honestly, I mean, you look at the difference in arc on his shot, and it's compared this year to last year, and it's crazy, and he's shooting better because of it. It's Anthony definitely, because I still believe in his dribble drive game, and he could be a 20, 22 point per game scorer and a decent defender in my opinion, and hopefully get 3-4 assists a game. Kind of be like what CJ has been the past few years. That's CJ's been a fringe all-star caliber player. This year CJ is like fringe superstar caliber player, but Anthony has star potential. Gary Trent Jr.'s averaging 20 points per game as a starter right now, and he's only 22. He has, I've always been like, he has a lower ceiling than Nas and Anthony, but I'm not so sure. Like he's playing at a very high level right now. And then you got Nas, and I think Nas has star potential too. I think he's just scratching the surface on what he could be. So yeah, it's everybody's saying, what's been funny is like the past few seasons. What has the narrative been? Trade the draft pick. Dame doesn't need more young guys. He needs guys that can help him win now, right? Or like, we need it. Well, like, we either need to draft a guy who's like a 4-year college guy that can help us win now, or we need to trade the pick. And then we draft Anthony Simons, and people are pissed off that we didn't draft Jacob Evans III. You remember that, bro? Oh man, you got a young guy helping. You got young guys helping you win games. You got a 22-year-old Gary Trent Jr. Is Anthony 22 yet? Anthony's still 21, isn't he?
I believe so.
Anthony's still 21. You got 21 Nasir Little. 21-year-old Nasir Little. These guys are helping us win games right now at their young age. But they also give us a much longer window than if we traded it for some guy that we had for a year and then walked in free agency. Like, bro, I mean, and now what's funny is I gotta thank this dono, RIP Blazers. Shout out for the $2 dono. He says if we kept the draft pick and picked Sadiq Bey and we had Sadiq Bey and Nas. Now it's like people are upset that we traded the draft pick this year. You know what I mean? Like some people are for a guy who's like a perfect fit on this team.
I was upset about it.
I'm fine with that trade because here's the thing: Rocco's defense is so good that it legitimately raises our ceiling because it gives us a chance of being a good defensive team because he's such a good off-ball defender that it helps clean up a lot of the mistakes that like a Dame or a CJ makes. So like I'm not pulling back on that trade at all because I think we needed a guy like that to contend.
And sure, Weezy's right. Like if he's not going to play Nas, you think Sadiq Bey is going to get more than 17 minutes right now? Mm-hmm. Like so,
Melo would be starting.
Yeah, Melo would be starting and all that stuff. So yeah, yes, I would love to think of the future if we had another young wing, and that would be crazy. But yeah, overall, Rocco's been fine, and if his shooting continues the way it has the last 6 games now, I think he's shooting 40% from 3 over that time. It's totally he does raise the ceiling of this team, and it will be worth it.
100%. Let me look at his splits in February going into this game. I'm kind of curious.
Before we get, I just want to add to that young player. We haven't even talked about him, but Zach Collins is only 23, and I know like 90% of people have given up on Zach Collins, but that is like the perfect glue guy complement to those 3 other players' skill sets if they all develop. And I'm not saying Zach should be included as a 4th star, but this is a guy who does things to win games and can help clean up some of the deficiencies from those other 3 guys. And I'm telling you guys this right now. I know a lot of you are going to disagree with me, but do not sleep on Zach Collins. He will still factor into this team's future, and we're not just going to dump him after this season. Yes, obviously, if he's not healthy moving forward after he recovers from this injury, then we'll talk about how that's definitely something to be concerned about. But if he ever gets healthy, this guy can absolutely help this team.
Yeah, I mean, like, you look at the jumps that like Gary Trent Jr., Nasir Little, Anthony Simons are making. Zach Collins has been robbed of his third and fourth NBA seasons, right? Had he been healthy, who knows how he could be. He could be like Rocco level right now as like a 3 and D guy. I don't know. He would be looked at completely differently if he never got hurt. The only thing that has made Blazer fans sour on him is the fact that he's been hurt. But like now it's like because he's been hurt, Blazer fans are like sour. They've soured on his ability and what he could potentially be. You get this guy back healthy, like there's no risk to keeping him. You keep him, you bring him back another year, probably on a qualifying offer, right? And hopefully he's healthy. Mm-hmm. And if he can make a jump, he was already a player that helped us win games, that legitimately helped us make the Western Conference Finals in his second year, right? So if you bring him back and he has a jump beyond that, he's a player that's helping you win games for sure. For sure. And he's young. And maybe, his injury situation, maybe we re-sign him for 3 years on $5 million a year or something like that and get him on a great bargain. And then he's healthy and he far outplays that contract. That is a great situation to be in. Great situation to be in. So I haven't soured on him either. I love just some of the young guys we have. Olshay's done a great job drafting guys. And I said on draft night, CJ Ellaby was not on my radar, right? And I was like, what in the world? Why did we draft CJ Ellaby? and then what did I say? I'm like, you know what? Olshay always hits with these second round draft picks, so I'm just gonna give him a chance. I'm not even gonna criticize it. Like Olshay knows what he's doing with these picks, so I'm just gonna wait and see on him. And now it's like, honestly, I'm actually happy with the pick now. Ellaby hasn't done too much, but from what I've seen, I see what Olshay saw in picking him. So,
and give me just a second. I'm doing some math here.
All right, let's see that quick maths. We'll jump into the players. We'll probably skip over Nas since we've talked about him so much. We'll touch on some of the guys we haven't really talked about.
So.
By the way, I did look up Rocco's splits for February. He is shooting 40% from 3 in February. And I don't think it's a coincidence that we're winning some of these games where he's shooting 40%. 40%. If a guy's shooting 40% and plays that type of defense, it's huge help. That's the guy we've needed, right? I mean, you go from Aminu and Harkless. What are those guys doing right now?
Mm-hmm.
They were underrated for us for sure, but I mean Rocco is just in a different class. You got your math done, or are you still mathing over?
I was just trying to figure because I was trying to look up some stats because people are saying Collins sucked in the bubble or whatever. He was trash, and I mean
the dude has barely played in a year. And coming into the bubble, and I don't think he was that bad.
And also, he was. I think Nurk was cleared to practice before him. It wasn't until mid-June or something that he was even cleared for contact. Mm-hmm. And then also, let's not forget that this guy had a foot injury. It's not like he was playing completely healthy. It's he was trying to play on that foot. They thought it was fine. And then it turned out it wasn't. But, he was not healthy. And that just goes back to if he ever is healthy. But, again, so stats are not the thing with Zach Collins. We were 6-2 in the bubble in the games he played. I know he left the Memphis game, but that doesn't count in our regular season standing. But we won that game, too. So, technically, we were 7-2 in the bubble in games we had Zach Collins at the beginning of the game. This guy makes plays to win games, and that's just something that people don't give, and most people don't give credit for, but he does.
Yeah, I mean, fully healthy, I'd rather have Zach Collins next to Enes Kanter off the bench than Carmelo Anthony. Just because I think Collins complements Kanter beautifully. And we saw that in the playoff run to the Western Conference Finals a couple years before that. I have his August stats. In terms of bubble, in the 7 regular season bubble games he played in August. The first one was like very end of July, but in the 7 regular season bubble games he played in August, he shot 50% from the field, 33% from 3 in 24 minutes a game, averaged 6.7 rebounds. So, like, not spectacular, but I wouldn't say he's terrible. You know, he's a defensive guy who hasn't played in a year. So, I mean, he's a glue guy, right? So, like, the hope with Collins is he becomes, like, an elite defender, much like a Rocco. You know, maybe, like, one-on-one isn't going to be great, but I still think, like, his team defense could be pretty much close to what Rocco provides you. And then he can shoot the 3 ball as well as Rocco. Like, I feel like he could become a Rocco-esque big man who can play the 4 or the 5. Those types of guys are rare. Like, I don't think that's out of the picture at all.
Block boy, we know you would never accept that. So.
Yeah, you don't have to voice that. We get it. I knew that type of response was coming because you're a biased Melo stan. So let's talk about players, and we'll skip over like Nas. We talked a lot about Nas. We'll just kind of touch on the guys that we haven't, and we will just roll through this thing right here. Let's go to manual. There we go. All right. So Damian Lillard, 31 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds. Almost had a triple-double. You know, if he chased rebounds, he could and assists, he could probably be Russell Westbrook-esque, if you know what I mean. But it probably wouldn't help the team win as many games. I mean, you look at what Westbrook is doing over there in Washington. Ooh. They ain't winning games with him. But Dame is leading his team 2 wins, despite having guys injured. This is another great Dame time performance. Anything like we didn't touch on when we were talking about Dame earlier that you want to bring up?
Not really. I think Westbrook and several other people were commenting during the game that they just had to let OKC come back so we could have Dame time because it's not quite as cool for an MVP performance if you win by 20, right? So
exactly.
So you had to have some more signature moments every game.
I mean, going into this game, I haven't looked at his. Actually, I think I looked at his stats last game, but I forget. Going into this game, dude's averaging over 29 points per game, over 7 assists per game. Those are only going to rise, points per game slightly. He's getting close to that 30 points per game and 8 assists per game mark that he set last year. The thing is, if you look at his like minutes, he's playing a couple of less minutes per game. So if you use, last year he played 37.5 minutes. This year he's playing 35.8. So if you use per 36 minutes to just even out the minutes, he's actually scoring at a higher rate than he did last year per minute, basically. And efficiency-wise, his efficiency is about the same. Last year he was 62.7% true shooting percentage. This year he's 62.4%. And that after this game is probably going to rise slightly. I'm not too sure. He's just as efficient. He's making plays at the same rate, but he's like that's what's crazy. He's scoring at the same rate, but it's far more consistent, it seems like, than it was last year. Like, he's not going for like 45, 50, 60 point games. He'll have, a 40 point performance here and there, but it's a lot of like he's consistently scoring around 30, between 25 and 35 points. And he's, instead of like having to take it upon himself, he's making other guys around him better, and he's empowering other players, and he's he's getting guys who are hot shots, and he's not doing it quite the same way he did last year. So I think it's honestly he's having a more impressive season than last year because he's been far more consistent. And if if he felt the need or had to take over like he did last season, I feel like he'd be averaging 35 points per game right now. You know what I mean? Like, it's I think this is more impressive. Statistically, it's about the same, but I think the way in which he's doing it this year is more impressive.
100% agree. And if you look at his last 10 games prior to this one, which he had 10 assists in, so there's only one outlier game against Orlando, which was kind of a weird game with all their injuries, and we're kind of in control the whole game, where he only had 2 assists. But the other 9 games, 11, 9, 7, 9, 8, 7, 9, 9, 10. So, like, he's getting at least 7 assists per game other than that one game. So his assist numbers seem a lot better this year, too. Like you said, he's deferring a little more, and guys were stepping up. And you got guys like Trent, who's averaging close to 20 points a game as a starter. Melo didn't have a great game tonight, but 5 or 6 out of the last 7 games were really good for him. And then you have guys like Nas coming in, Anthony Simons coming in, just scoring too. So yeah, it's like it's so much better when you have a balanced attack, but you have that danger in the fourth quarter if the game's online and it's close that you can just let Dame go crazy. And the fact that he doesn't have to do that as much throughout the first 3.5 quarters is very nice.
Yeah, and if you look at it, since the new year, since January 1st, so basically the last 21 games, 22 games if you count this one, I think, there's only been 2 games where he scored less than 20 points, right? He had 20 points against Cleveland, but he only played 29 minutes. He had 17 points against Milwaukee when we lost by 28. He only played 27 minutes. And he didn't even have that bad of a game. He was 6 for 13 that game. Like, he's consistently, like, you just look at his point totals. It's consistently between about, for the most part, 25 and 35. It's in that range. It's far more consistent, man. I would love to have him have a 60-point game. Those are fun to watch, but it's nice that he doesn't need to, and it's nice that he has been more consistent. I feel like last year he had a few more bad performances, and maybe that was because the guys he had around him compared to this year. But it's far more consistent.
Yep. Imagine if he starts like getting rid of the slow starts too to some of these games where he shoots. He's had a few games in a row where he's like we talked about, 1 for 10 for 3 in the beginning of the game. I think he was like 0 for 5 at one point in a recent game. Like if he starts hitting those shots earlier in the game too, he could be in line for one of those special nights. Or we might be so good or up by so much that we don't even need to play him in the fourth quarter, which would also be nice. And because long term, games like this are fun and it's awesome, but like it would have been nice too to not have to play Dame in the fourth quarter of this game, having a game tomorrow night. So at the same time, like it's impressive what he did, but like I'd almost rather not have to have him do that every game.
Yep. I agree. Let's move on and talk about Gary Trent Jr. Just another solid, consistent game from Gary Trent. I think he did have 4 assists. Couple steals, shot 5 for 8 inside the arc, 3 for 8 outside the arc. Played 38 minutes tonight, led the team in minutes, 19 points. Been consistently around 20 points per game as the starter in place of CJ. Just a typical solid Gary Trent Jr. game.
Yep. Made a couple really difficult shots at the beginning of the third quarter. Like to see maybe get a little better looks in that, but he's got the confidence to take those shots, and he hit them tonight. And yeah, he's just been so solid as the starting shooting guard while CJ's there.
Yeah, there was a play he drew attention off Dame. And you tweeted out about it. He's been such a good shooter that he drew a defender from Dame to him and made the extra pass to Dame, got Dame a wide open 3.
Yep.
So his scoring average should be 15 points per game after this one. I don't know. Like, he should continue to get 30 minutes per game, which is about what he's averaging on the season with CJ back. I'd probably bring him off the bench, but you got to give him 30 minutes a game off the bench. He could potentially be a 6th man of the year candidate if he's averaging 15 a game off the bench for the Blazers, and especially if he's been improving defensively, and he had some good defensive plays today. So if he continues to improve defensively, then he might be a 6th man of the year candidate for the Blazers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about Robert Covington next. He filled the box score, man. Look at that stat line. I've never had a guy who's only scored 6 points this early in terms of the graphics, but 6 points, 9 rebounds, 6 blocks, 5 assists, 2 for 5 from the 3-point line.
How many steals did he have?
I don't think he had a steal.
I swear he had at least one. But...
Yeah, somebody tweeted about that they saw Robert Covington get a steal and it didn't register as a steal or something. But he did out 6 blocks is phenomenal from your starting power forward.
Yeah, I mean, he had to play a little bit of backup center tonight because we didn't
Mm-hmm.
have a backup center.
But he held his
Cantor
own.
went down at one point. Thankfully, he
Mm-hmm.
got back up. But yeah, Covington, that's something he's had to do. Obviously, last year when Houston tried to play without a center. But yeah, just I mean, that's stat stuffer right there.
Yeah.
Just really good game for Robert Covington.
Yeah, somebody pointed out Jordan Clarkson for the Jazz. Like he's gonna win it. He keeps playing like this for sure.
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
Trent is like a candidate. He could be in the conversation
you didn't
if
say
he
he was
plays
gonna
like
win
that.
it, but-
Yeah, a little difference there. I mean, Jordan Clarkson, 26 minutes per game, is averaging 18 points per game and doing it efficiently. Like, yeah, it is Jordan Clarkson's to lose. That was such a great pickup for them. Shout out to the way the Jazz have built their team too. They've done an impressive job because they're a small market like us and don't have the same privileges as a Lakers team or the Clippers, Landon, Kawhi, and PG. So gotta respect the way they've done things there. But Rocco, man, it's his playmaking I thought was impressive today. He had a couple times where he drove and made the right pass out of it. He draws defenders when he drives, man. He's not like much of a slasher. But he does draw attention when he drives, and he does a decent job of making the right decision when he does.
Yep. And like we touched upon his shooting splits, if he's anywhere close to a 40% shooter, this team is going to go on win streaks like they're going on, and we're going to be in really good shape.
Yep. Let's talk about. I don't know. We've talked a lot about Anthony. Is there anything else you want to say on him?
Nope, just another solid game. Obviously, the first half was a little better than the second half, but this guy continues to hit threes, and I think he's shooting like 48% over his last or since CJ's been out, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's man. I didn't really even think he would be a lights out 3-point shooter. And I don't know if this is like, obviously he's not going to shoot close to 50%. That's not sustainable. But like we talked about with Nas, but like if we have like Trent, Nas, and Simons all shooting close to 40% from three, I mean that's just an incredible thing for this team with the spacing and the opportunities that opens up and the different things you can do when you have guys that space the floor like that.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. Like at this point, he's kind of a 3-point specialist. He shoots like 5 out of his 7 shots a game are from the 3-point line. It's weird to have a guy who's like a 3-point specialist, but like a lot of his 3-point shots come off a pick and roll, off the dribble, step backs, and whatnot. Because most of the time, you look at this statistically, and it's like a guy that's like shooting catch and shoot looks for the most part. But he's doing it, and he's getting threes off in such dynamic ways. I mean, he's shooting over 5 a game in under 18 minutes per game. That's over 10 3-point attempts per 36 minutes. So it's a high level of volume that he's that he's shooting. And then he's efficient, he's 41% going into this game. After this game might be more like 42 and a half. So, you combine that with his potential as a shot creator and a slasher, and that's where you get your star potential from.
Well, yeah, to your point, because like players like Dame before last season and like James Harden and stuff, people always say, oh, they're a career like 36, 37% 3-point shooter. They're not good shooters.
Mm-hmm.
But then like you look at the degree of difficulty they shoot. So that's a great point because Anthony Simons isn't just like standing in the corner shooting threes like most of Trent's are. So like, yeah, it's like, it's a different way. And if you can shoot 40% like Dame did last year and Simons is doing this year on those type of threes, you are a good shooter. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah, you're just impossible to guard at that point. Like, you have to do so much to stop them from getting 3-point looks off. Like, you close out on a Joe Harris and whatnot, and he's not getting an efficient 3-point shot up, right? He shoots most of his stuff off catch and shoot. But you close out on Anthony Simons, Damian Lillard, you can play great defense. They can still get up an efficient 3-point shot. And that's just makes the offense so much more dynamic, especially when it stagnates. And our offense is prone to that. You got guys that can create efficient looks for themselves out of that. Very, very tough looks. It'd be nicer to get easier looks for these guys, but it's definitely a good thing to be able to have somebody that can knock down those types of shots.
Mm-hmm. And that's CJ can do it too. Like Rip Everyday points
Bro.
out. I don't agree that Trent. I mean, he does hit some tough threes every once in a while, but for the most part, they're kick out threes or fairly open threes.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder when Anthony Simon's like hitting some of these shots, I wonder what it's like for opposing fans that like know our team and just be like, oh, they got a third guard that can shoot these types of shots, like, because a lot of teams don't have one guard that can knock down shots like that, and it's like we got three at this point. So the guard factory here in Portland. Let's move on and talk about. We already talked about Nas a bunch. Is there anything else you want to touch on?
No, just I want to see this guy on the floor. As he's such an exciting player. I mean, yeah, 2 dunks tonight, and is like, I don't know about you, but that 3-point just looks so smooth. Like it looks like it's going in every time. And I was like, get him the ball, like get him shots, and it's just something to watch going forward. But this guy is. I don't know. I don't want to like overhype it or whatever, but like this guy has massive potential, and he's just sitting there waiting for the opportunity, and I think we should give it to him.
Yep, agreed. That left-handed dunk was fun, man. We got to get him. We got to get him rolling, cutting to the hoop in space like that, because he's a legitimate threat, especially with all the shooters around him. He'll have space, and I talked about that to start this show. So I would love to utilize him more as a cutter, and then also try and get him more good catch and shoot 3-point looks. I think he can be a very dynamic offensive player if we put him in the right opportunities, and hopefully he can grow into somebody that can put himself in those opportunities himself just by doing things off the dribble. Next guy we got.
I don't know if it was last game or the game before, but he had like a one-on-one situation where he drove and then turned around and faded away and hit like a 15-footer. So he's got like multiple facets to his game as well.
Oh yeah, he has that ability, he has that potential, and that's what excites me about him. Derrick Jones Jr. had 13 points on 9 shots, 1 for 4 from the 3-point line, 3 for 5 inside the arc, had 7 rebounds and a block. Missed another poster dunk. Bro, for a season, he has already built the most impressive missed dunks tape in NBA history.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to put that together, man. Because, if these missed dunks are just close, like, he's had 5 dunks where it would have been maybe the dunk of the year in the NBA, I feel like, that he's missed, or one of the dunks of the year. I wish he threw that. Especially because that dunk he missed was right after Nas threw it down with his left on whoever that was. Nas had that poster dunk, and then Derrick Jones Jr. was like, he thought it was his turn, and almost added on to it. We don't have guys. We've never really had guys that can like posterize people, and it's kind of fun having that sort of threat. I wish he'd actually just do it instead of missing these, though, man.
Well, we have. It's just been a long time.
Well, I mean, anytime recently, it's obviously with like Clyde and other guys in the past, obviously, yeah.
I have to admit something.
Go ahead.
I'm super annoyed with Derrick Jones Jr. The missed dunks. Dude, come on. Like, just don't go for the super crazy poster dunk. Just finish the ball. This is going to start costing us games in close games if you do not finishing. There's no reason you should be like this bad shooting on dunks.
If he didn't cock it back like that, I think he was getting blocked.
Yeah, maybe like, okay, every once in a while there's one where you could say that, but like I just feel like if he just finished better, it might not be as impressive or as big of a highlight, but like you got to make those, man. Like if you get to the rim, you gotta put it in. You can't miss this many of them.
I feel like a lot of times it's like it looks like he's like trying to put something extra on it, but it's like, I don't know, it's like one where he like jumped too far out and like he could have drove into the center's body, you know what I mean? But like would that have been a more higher percentage look than him jumping from further out and like almost dunking the ball? Probably not, you know what I mean? So because that was like a couple games ago, something like that happened. I think it was a home game. And then this one, I honestly think he would have gotten blocked. Like he cocked it back like around the rim protector's hand and then tried to throw it down, you know what I mean? And he had to try and dunk it hard, and dunk it quick, or else he wasn't going to be high enough anymore. You know what I mean? And he wasn't by the time he got it there. Like he threw it off the back of the rim. But so it's frustrating. I wish he'd put these down, but I feel like some instances it looks like he's trying to be a little extra with it and make a highlight, but it's actually more practical than it seems.
And so Nathaniel says, sorry, Eric, I would agree, but if he made one of those, it would be just so epic. Yes, that's my point, but he hasn't. That's at least 8 times now where he's trying to make the most epic dunk of all time, and he doesn't finish it. I just wish, these are dunks or lay-ins, opportunities to where you should be able to hit a higher percentage of them. So, I don't know, I got, when he missed that one tonight, I was just like, are you kidding me again? Come on, man. Just finish.
Here's the thing. You throw it hard enough off the back of the rim and it creates... He created a wide-open three-point look for Carmelo Anthony, and 3 is more than 2. If Carmelo hit that, he should have gotten an assist, right? I just think... I'm just not hard on him with that because I think it's actually more practical than it seems, him going for these types of dunks, and instead it's he could go for layups that he might miss too. So it's just whatever to me. But yeah, definitely, I think we can all agree we want to see this. We want to see him put a poster on somebody that isn't an almost highlight. We want to see the actual full thing.
I admit it's not the best take. It just annoys me now. Every time he goes up for a dunk and misses, I'm just gonna get more annoyed, I guess.
Yeah, but overall solid game from Derrick Jones Jr. We got Carmelo. Let's talk about Carmelo for a second. Block boy left, so we can say what we want, right? As if he'd stop us before. 10 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 for 14 from the field, 1 for 4 from the 3-point line. He was 3 for 10 inside the arc. He took some bad shots today, in my opinion. He forced some tough looks today, and I don't know. I didn't really like the game. I didn't like how he played offensively today compared to some of the past games, and that technical he got I thought was stupid. It was like a 50-50 call. You can't get that mad on a 50-50 call. Because I guarantee you, if he was that defender and defended it like that, he would have been pissed if he got the foul called on him. You know what I mean? It wasn't blatantly obvious that it was a foul or anything. The guy came down a little bit, and I think skimmed his elbow. I don't know. It probably was a foul, but you can't get that mad, man. It was almost like he was missing shots, so he was getting frustrated. But yeah, I don't know. He's had better games, and he's been shooting the ball hot, so I hope this isn't the end of that.
Here's the deal. We talked about in recent games, he's been getting into the middle of the paint and creating space and getting nice little shots off. In this game, several of his attempts were post-ups where he was getting pushed way too far out, and he did not have a shot. He turned around, pump faked, it wasn't there. And what does he do? He still shoots it anyway, even though he does not have a good shot attempt and 1 or 2 of them were against the shot clock, and so those are explainable. But the step backs where you do not create space and you are not getting a good clean look off are the worst kind of shots he takes, and he did that way too many times tonight. I want him to go back to doing what he was doing the previous games, where he was actually getting into the middle of the key, shooting those little nice 10-foot jumpers between the free throw line and the rim, and he was getting a decent amount of space away from his guy. And if this guy was tight, he was creating fouls and stuff like that. And maybe he got fouled on that one where he got the tee. But overall, he just needs to recognize, if he does not have a clean look, it's okay to kick it out. Sometimes you can actually repost him, or just do something different, but don't take those shots, because that just goes against everything that was working well in previous games.
Yeah, but even on top of that, he gets the ball facing up, even if he's far away from the rim. Don't settle. Don't if you hit a couple jumpers, okay, I get it. Maybe settle for 1 or 2, but don't continuously settle for them when you could drive. Because here's the thing: if he just attacks the paint, there's multiple good things that can happen. A, he's far more likely to get fouled. B, the shot he's going to get off is likely to be better. And then C, if he can't get a shot off, he's more likely to draw a defender and create an open kick-out pass for somebody. So, I would like to see him attack more out of those situations to kind of settle for some of the shots he took tonight.
According to Portland Film, Melo took some bad shots, but when your only other shots are deep threes that aren't going down, he's fine with those bad shots.
What?
I don't know.
What?
Portland Phil's had a lot of questionable comments.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how to respond to that because I don't know what game you were watching. We were getting very good looks overall from all areas of the floor during the first three quarters. So, settling for bad and contested mid-range shots is not the answer, and we weren't just shooting deep threes all game long. But I'd rather shoot a deep three than a contested deep two because three is more than two, even though it's a little less efficient. So that's not a good take. Hard disagree on that one. Let's talk about Ennis. We haven't talked about Ennis. This is the first time I can say Ennis did not have a good game. It's the first time I can say that in a long time. But also, he played decent defensively this game, and he had 21 rebounds. He just missed some bunnies. If he makes 3 more of those bunnies, he shoots 5 for 10, he has 14 points. We're saying it's another solid Ennis Cantor game. So it came down to him missing a lot of interior shots that he usually converts.
Yeah, he's going to have a bad game eventually shooting-wise, but you can't really say he had a bad game when he had 21 rebounds, man.
He had a bad shooting game. Overall, this is the worst. I would say this is probably, I don't know, he's been consistently... he's been so consistent that this is maybe the worst game he's had as a starter.
Yeah.
But it's not a terrible game. He had 21 rebounds, played decent defense, just missed some bunnies, but he's been playing decent defense. He's been rebounding the ball. So, he set a pretty lofty standard for himself.
Yeah, I had that one where he got a nice rebound, turned and was wide open, missed the lay-in, got it back, and had another wide open lay-in and missed it again, and he was so mad at himself. But if he makes the first one, he's 3 for 9, and then it looks a lot better.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I don't know. It's weird. I'm not 7 feet tall, but I'm obviously usually a bigger player when I'm playing in games rec games and stuff. So I hate playing against teams that don't really have. I know Horford played a little bit, not a lot in this game, but I hate playing against teams with scrappy little guys that defend you in a different way. I'd much rather play a bigger setter that's more my size and go up against them. But yeah, so that's not the excuse having a bad shooting thing. But he was due for a bad shooting night eventually because he's been so solid the rest of the year.
Yep, I agree. That wraps up the players. Anything else on your mind to touch on right now?
No, just happy the 5-game win streak. That's awesome. Yep. We thought we were going to do something like that last year. Every time we won a couple of games, we'd have a bad effort. And like you mentioned earlier, once again, great points tonight, Tori. We're winning these games this year versus losing them, and that's encouraging overall that we can overcome our deficiencies, and if we just continue to work on some of these things that we're critical about, we can be not only in a position to have a really good seed in the playoffs, but maybe a little better situated to take advantage of some of these situations that we haven't in the past.
Yep. Ennis Cantor after this game said Damian Lillard is like a cheat code, and I think that's a great way to put it. Let's touch on the Suns are still beating the Nets 101-88 with 11 minutes left in the fourth. I really hope the Nets can make some sort of comeback here. The Suns were up 75-54 at halftime. The Nets have cut it to within 12. Hopefully they can come back. I'm tired of the Suns winning, man. We've won 5 in a row and we can't gain any ground on them. They've won 6 in a row, going on 7. I would like to be fourth, please.
The Nets are still without Durant.
Yep.
And they played last night, so.
Yep. Then the Clippers yesterday beat the Heat, even though they didn't have Kawhi or Pat Bev or Paul George, and the Heat were at full strength, so that was kind of frustrating. It's hard to gain ground on these.
The The
teams above
Spurs
us.
are going to stay at 16 and 11 for a while because they've had their next 3 games called off because of COVID.
Yep. I mean, you look at the 4 teams ahead of us, right? We're 8-2 over our last 10 games, Eric. The 4th place Suns are 9-1. The 3rd place Clippers are 7-3. The 2nd place Lakers are 8-2, same as us. The 1st place Jazz are 9-1. We're not, bro. We're playing like this. We're not gaining ground, man. It's frustrating. We're gaining ground over the teams below us. You know, like the Nuggets are 5-5 in their last 10. The Warriors are 5-5. The Mavericks 5-5. Pelicans, Kings all 5-5. Grizzlies are 4-6. So we're gaining ground ahead of those teams. Just wish we were gaining ground on the teams ahead of us.
Yeah, the only thing that's good is if we just hang with those top teams, the top 5 could separate from. Because we saw just maybe like a week ago, we were a game or 2 out of being 14th possibly in the West versus a game or 2 out of being like 4th or 5th. And so if the top teams can separate themselves to where we're not worried about the teams behind us coming up, that would be a nice thing to have.
Yeah. And I mean, when the team's playing like this, I'm not even really worried about the teams behind us because the team is, you know, playing good enough to consistently win games. So for me, it's more about like what's ahead of us. But I do agree with that. We're now 6 games ahead of the team in 14th, which is Houston and OKC are tied for 13th, 14th. So that is definitely nice. And we got 2 winnable games coming up. You know, you got the Pelicans tomorrow. That'll be an interesting game. The Pelicans scored 144 on the Grizzlies, but they have such a weird team, you know. I don't know. We could. I mean, I feel like we should win this game if we play like how we did during the first 3 quarters tonight. I feel like we still have the better roster out there. I mean, New Orleans is 12-15 for a reason. Their pieces don't really mesh. So hopefully we continue this win streak, and then after that we got 2 days off, and then we play the Wizards, right? So I'm hoping, you know, before this OKC game, I said over the next 3 I expect 2-1, but I want 3-0. We've won 1, so. You know, we split the next 2. We're still sitting pretty at 18-11, but 19-10. I mean, that would be phenomenal. Because after this, you got New Orleans and you got Washington. Then you go back on the road. They finally have some tough games, right? We've been talking about, oh man, we can't catch Phoenix. They keep winning games. Well, after New Orleans and Washington, we go on the road and we play Phoenix. So that'll be a battle of 2 hot teams, most likely, unless we lose the next 2, then I wouldn't say we're a hot team coming in. But, that should be a battle of 2 hot teams. We can maybe gain ground on them. That should be a really good game. Then the next night we play Denver on TNT. Then we have a couple days off, and then we play at the Lakers, who will be without Anthony Davis. So in terms of the 3 games on that road trip, that might be our easiest game, believe it or not. The Lakers didn't look too good without AD tonight. I mean, you shut down LeBron, you shut down that team. They don't have a ton of depth, in my opinion. And without AD, it's like we beat them with AD. So I think that should be a toss-up, you know. And then you only have 3 games after that, the first 3 games of March before the break, and they're all at home, and they're all against teams that were better than. You got Charlotte, you got Golden State, you got Sacramento. So you got 8 games left until the All-Star break. What do you expect the team to go over those 8 games? What are you expecting, Eric, if you just had to guess?
I'm guessing like 5-3.
Yeah, that would be my realistic expectation. Optimistic expectation would be 6-2. Mm-hmm. If they play like how they've been playing for the most part during this hot stretch, I think they could go 6-2. That would put them at 23-12. That'd be phenomenal going into the All-Star break and then getting CJ healthy most likely, and then Nurkic shortly after. But even if we go 5-3, you're sitting at 22-13 going into the All-Star break. That's a pretty good record. That's a pretty good position to be in. I'd rather drop a game against Charlotte too than to drop a game against Phoenix. So some of these games will be more important than the others because we're simply battling with them for playoff positioning.
Yeah, and then just to give an update, so CJ is out of his boot today. He's going to be reevaluated again in 2 weeks, which kind of bugs me too. It's like, if this wasn't, reevaluation means to me, at that point, he's possibly healthy and they'll see what it's like. But they made it sound today like the plan all along was for him to get his boot off today, and then in another couple weeks after this to be reevaluated again. So that's not a reevaluation. That's just a doctor's appointment where you get your boot off.
Yep.
So a little frustrated with that, but so 2 weeks out from getting the next step, whatever that is. I don't think he'll be ready in 2 weeks, but hopefully he's getting close to
well, here's the thing. We have, a week off from the 4th to the 11th?
Yeah.
Hopefully he's back the 11th. That would give him almost 4 weeks from now. Right? His next reevaluation date will be, March 2nd?
Mm-hmm.
March 3rd, sometime and then. And then March 4th is our last game before the break. March 11th, I think, is the target for him to be back. Of course, you never know. It could be longer. I don't know. I don't know what the situation is. But then Nurkic, I'm hoping mid to late March, because that would be 8-9 weeks. His reevaluation date was 6 weeks, right? So very start of March. So if it's kind of a similar thing, then hopefully maybe March 21st, March 25th, I don't know. So sometime late March we could get Nurkic back. When is the trade deadline again? Because I forget.
March 25th.
Yeah, so I don't know. That'll be interesting. We'll have the trade deadline stream for you guys, of course. But it'll be I don't know. I'm not really expecting much, but I don't know. That talk can pick up soon. I guess. I don't know. There's not much out there though.
The other concerning thing was Giles is in a boot tonight, which seems weird for a calf strain. So hopefully that's not something more serious, because I don't know why you would put someone in a boot with a calf strain. That doesn't make sense to me. But
yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's so that he doesn't extend the calf when walking. You know what I mean? Flex
maybe,
the foot.
Yeah. There's probably a reason for it, but I haven't seen that very often.
Yeah, we can. We'll ratchet up the talk about maybe Blake Griffin and stuff. Those are good questions. Clayton asked, "Do you think Gary Trent or Ant becomes better than CJ at their peaks?" I don't know. Hard to say. They have the potential to maybe be a little bit better, but CJ was balling this year, so I don't even know what CJ's peak is. And then talk about Blake Griffin. Those are great questions for Blazers Uprise Live, which we stream Mondays, Thursdays. We go live between 3:30 and 4 p.m. Pacific time. We do picks against the spread, and then basically we pick games against the spread that tip off later that night. And then we talk about basketball, and we can talk about some around the NBA stuff and whatnot, and take your questions there. We have a little bit more time for that, so you should tune in for one of those streams. I don't know if I've seen Clayton in there, or I know some of you guys watching this don't watch our Blazers Uprise Live stuff, but I think it's good content, and a lot of your questions would be great questions to ask over there. So the link for that I'm going to post in chat. It's at the top of the description. Go subscribe. We're almost at 1,000. Been chasing 1,000 over there. So yeah, we will do that segment. Nathaniel, pick your All-Stars on the next Uprise live stream. When are the All-Stars announced?
I think the starters are announced Thursday. This Thursday. Right before our stream, or right after our stream.
Well, we can pick our All-Stars on next stream. That's a great idea. That's something that I was planning on doing, but I completely forgot about. And I might put together graphics for that or something. I don't know. That could be something fun. So if you want our All-Star picks, tune in next Thursday, going live around 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. Especially since we only got 3 games to pick that day. I'll take that time and put together some graphics for us picking our All-Stars. That'll be a fun segment. So make sure you go subscribe to that if you haven't already. And yeah, because you guys are asking good questions in chat, but we're going to wrap this up since we're at 2 hours. We generally try and keep these 2 hours, or a little bit shorter than that. So anyway, the Blazers get a good win tonight. Made it very, heart-wrenching there for a second, but they still pulled things out. With some Dame time late against the Oklahoma City Thunder. They've won 5 straight, 7 of their last 8. Hopefully this trend can continue tomorrow. We got a quick turnaround. That game is tipping off at 6 p.m. against the Pelicans tomorrow. We will have your post-game stream going live around 8:30, basically right after the game, like usual. And then Thursday, Blazers Uprise Live. Make sure you subscribe to that channel. I don't know what Westbrook is plugging, but I'm just gonna ignore it. Yeah, the Blazers win by double digits, but it didn't feel like a double-digit win. It should have felt like a double-digit win, but sadly it didn't. Anything you want to end off with, Eric?
Nope. Sorry I couldn't make it for the beginning of the stream, but
it's all good.
Thanks everyone for tuning in.
I enjoyed the challenge of doing things solo. I felt like a radio host.
I'm like Dame right now at my store. I'm down several starters, and I'm having to pick up the slack here. And yeah, so
it's all good. I can step up like Dame without you and be the Dame of this show while you be the Dame of your store.
All right.
Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for making us a part of your night. Hopefully you have a good rest of your Tuesday, and we will catch you tomorrow. Got a jam-packed schedule this week, and we appreciate the support that you guys consistently give us. Hopefully the Blazers can get that win tomorrow. We'll see. It should be an entertaining game, and we'll have you covered. Follow us on Twitter at ToryJonesYT for me, at HoopShock for Eric, at Blazers Uprise YT for the channel. Our Twitter links are in the description below, as well as the Uprise link, Uprise Live link. That's a wrap. We're out of here. We will catch you guys later. As always, peace out.